Hello folks, World Cup 2014, Brazil and Holland play for the third and fourth place final. A match that nobody really wanted to play. The Dutch had declared, Van Gaal had declared that they were not interested in the match. For Brazil, it meant a lot. They tried to avoid the complete shame and embarrass after losing to Germany 7-1 last Tuesday. Well, another horrible, dark page for Brazil. They lost 3-0. Not much to say about football. With soccer, 1 minute in the game, Robin dribbled the Brazilian defenders, was grabbed by Thiago Silva. The referee thought it was a penalty. It was about 1.5 meters away from the area, but the referee gave the penalty to the Dutch. Van Persie took it and put the Dutch ahead of the match 1-0. Brazilian team completely lost. Filipão made terrible changes before the match, putting Maxwell, a horrendous left full-back, playing in the match, put other players like Ramirez, William, players that don't have the capacity to represent Brazil in a World Cup. 15 minutes, 12 minutes later, in a play that the Dutch forward was completely offside. The referee didn't see. Horrifying referees this match and this whole cup, by the way. And Brazil did not complain, accepted passively as cattle this disgrace that happened in this match against Holland. Then, the cross was made. David Luiz made a horrible mistake, heading the ball back to the player blind from Dutch. They touched the ball 3 times. Thiago Silva could have blocked, didn't do anything, didn't move. Very suspicious too. And the Dutch were had 2-0 in 15 minutes. They could have kept putting pressure, as the Germans did. But as I said before, the natural response after you scored a second goal or a third goal is just to say, to cool things off, kind of, organize the team, administrate the match, and let the time go by. Well, that's what the Dutch did. That's what the Germans were supposed to do. But it seems like they were really following the script to humiliate and demoralize Brazil, and it's sort of like a fixed match between Brazil and Germany. This time, the Dutch just, let the things cool down. Brazil could not create anything. They had Oscar pretty much playing by himself on the field. Could not anything from Willian, nothing from the other players. In the first half, ended up 2-0. Came back for the second half. He put Hernandez on the field. The player that perhaps should have played a little bit more. Put Fernandinho. How dare of you, Filipão, to use this player, a player that is under suspicion of having given the match to Germany. Filipão put him again there, and Brazilian crowd passively accepted this shame of having this player in the field. Probably a guy that displayed the worst match ever in a Brazilian team, giving 3 goals to Germany last Tuesday. Well, Brazil didn't do anything, didn't create anything, not much to put hope. Kind of guy that doesn't have enough soccer to play for Brazil too, but tries hard. Nothing was created. In the very end of the match, another big mistake by David Luiz and Maxwell. The cross was made. And Wijnaldum, this great player from Holland, put the Dutch ahead of the game 3-0. Another humiliating game for Brazil that suffered 14 goals in the World Cup. I did my homework to find out that this happened before. It did happen. Korean team allowed 16 goals to be scored in 1954. Sweden allowed 14 in 1950. And Zaire and Haiti 14 in 1974. 40 years ago, where the African team and this Central American team that were beginning in football and soccer allow as many goals as Brazil had this time. Extremely suspicious. This is something that the Brazilian authorities and Interpol have got to check upon. And a lot of strange things happened, like why did Neymar pretended that he suffered the injury? It was very, very strange. Same thing for Thiago Silva getting the yellow card. Same thing for Filipão nephew. Mr. Tarcísio Schneider got killed in a car accident. These things should be investigated, especially because now we got an information that Kia Jarabishan, a man that is very involved with the Russian mafia, that had been accused before of setting up matches, a guy that has been arrested in Brazil. He worked for Corinthians in the MCI when they brought Ronaldinho back to football, to Brazilian football. They took players like Mascherano and Carleto Tevez for Corinthians. Corinthians did not play well. They were not winning the Brazilian championship at the year when then one referee confessed to have set up games at that year. And then because of that, the games were replayed and Corinthians won the Brazilian championship at that time. This man was arrested, Kia Jarabishan, in Brazil by the federal police with washing money and setting up matches and forming gangs. Well, he was, released later, and now he is the manager of more than 1/3 of the Brazilian players. I have the list here. Mr. Eduardo Magalhães provided me with the list, and I'm going to tell you, these are the players that belong to Kia as a manager. Jô, Bernard, Ramírez, Júlio César, Davi Luiz, Paulinho, William, and Oscar. All of these players are managed by Mr. Kyoji Robishana, a man that has been arrested in Brazil, has involvements with the Russian mafia, has been involved in setting up matches. Really, really, shame on you, Brazil. Really horrifying. You know, I have been thinking a lot about like what if Brazil had beaten Germany by 7-1 last Tuesday. What people would say. A lot of people would be investigating, would say the Brazilian government had bought Germany for the occasion. Now, you know, when it happened the other way around, Germany beat Brazil at home by 7-1, and nobody's talking about anything, nobody's saying anything, like a normal thing. Oh yeah, Brazil lost 7-1 at home. Nothing happened. Another thing that really caught my attention yesterday while listening to Brazilian radio, I heard some of Brazilian play-by-plays and commentators saying that, you know, evaluating who should come back for the next Olympics for Brazil, and they said about 10 players. Well, I think no player from this Brazilian squad should ever come back to dress the Brazilian jersey. They're not worth it. Not even Neymar, a player, yeah, absolutely fantastic player that proved the world that he can do a lot of things, but his morals are under suspicion. Yesterday he was scanning a bag on his back for a man that, you know, broke his back last Tuesday. That's completely unacceptable. I really think this whole thing is a farce and it's got to be investigated. Like I said, not only by the Brazilian federal police, but also by Interpol. This cup, you know, which has started with tremendous matches, horrible refereeings, very strange things in the end. These things have got to be cleared out because, you know, Brazil is the soccer country, is the greatest soccer country in the world. 5 World Cups. They cannot let that go. Tomorrow I'll come back to talk about the final between Argentina and Germany. Hope nothing strange happened during and after the game. I'll see you next time.